Oh no! No! Oh, look at this animation! No, Gluttony! Oh. I take no pleasure in this. Enough already. Oh. How can you not feel bad right now? Hey, look at this. Come on, Gluttony, fight back. Fight back. Let's see something here. Yeah, it's Grandpa.
久しいな、こそ。やっぱ富士山か。
Foo.
すぐそこでもでかい木が2つぶつかっているな。
多分グリードとグラトニーだ。
グリード。若を飲み込んだやからか。あと森の中にでかい木が1つ。
今、それがプライドってホモンクルスと戦ってる。
And there should be yet another one he should be able to sense. Pointheim.
最後にもう一つ。近くの集落の中に。
Ed's looking back to his older self again.
それ、多分エドのおやっさんだ。
お前の父は人ではないのか。
とりあえずそっちは放っといていい。
案ずるな。我らの武器は体術だけではない。
Long range. Oh man, the moment those lights come back. Get ready.
爆弾の他にどんなの持ってる？
いろいろあるぞ。催涙弾、閃
Flash
光弾、
bombs,
照明弾。
flares. Oh no.
スラムに明かりがつき始め
Oh
た。
no, 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 no.
またあのうねうねが現れる。俺をプライドのところまで連れてってくんないか。ちょっと手を貸してほしいことがある。
Something he wants to test out?
了解した。
The look? Oh man. You know, I forgot to bring up, but his container, his body is not taking any damage. I mean, you see the clothing is getting scratched up, but interesting. It's clearly not a normal human body that he's inside of, right? This is just so funny. Imagine out of context. This big lion man going at this little child. Oh, yes. Love that shot. Ah, Mustang? A damn Christmas.
セリム・ブラッドレーはまともな人間じゃなかった。
古い写真だな。
Wow, yeah, he's been around.
20年前。こっちは50年前か。
That's a great shot, too. Wow, look at this. Pride knows. All he has to do is just take the beating, because it's not really even... Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Out of context. There it is, the opportunity. Oh, no. And you're done, too. Oh, light it up. Throw all kinds of shadows up here. No. But... Ooh, okay.
危なかったな、おっさん。
Oh,
しかし、こんなガキがホム。
it's a jarring sight. He's a bit of a troll, isn't he?
外見など記号でしかありません。そうでしょ。
Ah.
小さい錬金術師。お兄さん。
He's a troll.
ロイマスタングは
まだ中にいる。
何も
店にしても長いな。
マダムクリスマスとかいう女。本名クリスマスタング。やつの。
Wow.
私の城が。
またすぐ買ってあげるから。
Yeah, I was gonna say.
してよ。
You gotta pay her back. Roy looking suave. Look at him. Hug it out? No?
次会った時反逆者として死体袋の中だったなんてのは承知しないからね。
あ
りがとうマダム。この借りはきっと。
お得意の出世払いってやつかい。じゃ
Look at that, another
楽
promise.
しみに待ってようかね、ロイボ。
You better be around, my guy. You got a lot of promises to keep up.
扱いはやめてくれないかな。
Ah, that's sweet. You see how he gets some of his charm. Oh, it's flying by, man. No, gluttony. Look at that teardrop. Yes. Let's go.
貴様の憎まれ口が今は頼もしく聞こえるよ。
大総統は東部の演習に。
It's missing at the
それ
moment.
に同行しています。
And Pride is outside.
グラマンじいさんもやることが過激です。
Grumman. I've been calling him
これで
Grumman.
警戒レベルは引き上げられてしまう。いろいろとやりにくくなるかもしれませんね。
The watch.
大総統が行方
There's a plan here.
千載一遇のチャンスか、それとも落とし穴か。今我々が持っているのは戦場への片道切符だ。勝っても負けても後戻りはできない。諸君らが守るべき命令はただ一つ。死ぬな。以上だ。
Oh. Look at this. Ed is holding up against Pride.
北国用のオートメールのままにしておいて
The carbon fiber.
炭素繊維がたっぷり使われてるからな。
Hell yeah.
炭素効果
But now he knows it's carbon
グ
fiber.
リードの真似事ですか。
Nice.
それなら
Ugh. Okay, it's time for Hohenheim to come in. Come on. Let's see something here.
これでおしまいか。
He's about to show you something, man.
ここはやはり
藤井さん
Here. Ah, maybe that was part of the plan. Okay. Light it up, light it up. Hell yeah. No. Rescue, rescue.
逃がしません。もう一丁。
Another one.
さっきの怒り何？
I did mention something like this, didn't I? Episodes ago at this point.
真っ暗でもおでのいるところがわかるみたい。
なんですって。ラースが言っていたホムンクルスの気配がわかる真の戦士ですかね。
Yeah, that's the one.
真の王子を取り込んでその能力を使っているのですか、グリードめ。 君何回死にました？
Quite a bit.
わかんない。たくさん死んじゃった。
Oh no.
私もかなりやられてしまいました。
No.
このままでは奴らに滅ぼされるかもしれません。
He's gonna take his stone.
お父様に直してもらう。やだ。
Oh. Oh, he's calling out for lust. That's the enemy. Yeah.
これは都合がいい。君たち
Oh.
の匂いがよくわかります。この匂いは近くにいるのですか？応援ハイ。
Oh, come on.
大総統の乗った列車が爆破されたことやセントラルにイシュバール人が多数入り込んできていることと奴が関係しているとしたら
よりによってこのタイミングで
You know, that does leave Mrs. Bradley just by herself, doesn't it?
お前たちの方が奴の思考には詳しかろう。奴なら次にどう動く？
That might be it.
私なら
Useless.
ばまずブラッドレー夫人を手中に収
There
め
it is. That's the chance he was speaking
人
of, right?
質にすると無駄なことを使えん人質を取って自ら逆進の目を切るか。
He doesn't know
だ
that
もって人間というのはどうしがたい。
there's something so seductive about this music. Oh, it is. They're about to take her. Oh, so it finally came back episodes later. That information that was
何をしている。
given to her or shared.
夜分遅く申し訳ありません奥様
おかい注意なぜあなたがこんなことを
突然の無礼をお許しくださいおとなしくついてきていただければ
Interesting shot there to have Hawkeye in the background like
ご
that.
一緒に
I mean, this is some post-credit scene. Holy. Whew. Okay, yeah, you know, like I said, that's perhaps one of the most crucial and important post-credit scenes of the entire series. I mean, that actually just felt like a normal scene straight out of the episode itself. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the post-credit scenes actually do feel like they could be just part of the episode. Hell, I even think a lot of them should be a part of the episode. You know, I've seen a few that really felt like, okay, this is like a really crucial scene that should have been included, right? Just for the reason that, you know, there is a possibility, a strong possibility that a lot of people might actually end up forgetting about it or skipping it by accident, right? So yeah, sometimes it feels like, okay, maybe it's a bit of an oversight to leave this after the credits, something so crucial. But yeah, this one right here, you see that Roy Mustang made his move, right? Something that is essentially possible because of that conversation that took place. Hawkeye and Wrath, or King Bradley, right? And that crucial bit of information that he made the choice to share, right? That even though everything in his life is something that was handed to him, something that is not in his control, there is something that was in his control, something he decided on himself, right? And at that point, it felt like it was important that he puts that out there, right? That he lets this person know that not everything in his life is out of his control. So even that in itself is really quite human of him, isn't it? Right? That he felt the urge to let it be known. You know, not everything is by design here. You know, I do have some semblance of control over my life. As tiny as it may be, you know, that tiny portion of it is something as significant as a life partner, Mrs. Bradley. Right, so you see that she was able to get that information to Mustang. Of course, a lot of this is happening off screen, and then clearly they planned on this, and you know they pulled through to take her. Now, listen, you know, there's also an element of just saving her altogether. You know, she's just clueless about all of this. That, you know, she is surrounded by these homunculi. You know, these people that she loves and cares for are in fact these supernatural beings. Right. But again, that being said, there is that dynamic of her and King Bradley actually having some love for each other. Not some, you know, as far as she knows, yeah, they are a married couple and they've known each other for a long time. There is that element of just maybe, you know, getting her out of the situation that she does not even recognize or is not able to recognize. But it is interesting that they kind of left her. I mean, Wrath, of course, you know, it was something of an unknown, but, you know, having Selim or, you know, Pride out there as well. Though, of course, you know, I'm guessing Wrath was not expecting to be derailed and kind of, you know, busy at the moment. He's out there. He'll come back into it at some point. But yeah, that leaves her by herself. It gave him the opening. They took it. Now, of course, you know, it's clear to everyone they're not going to hurt her. She's essentially a piece of the puzzle. She's crucial, essentially, I think, to their plans, right? Now, you know, there is that disconnect. You see that father does not even care about this. He's not even able to kind of understand the logic behind this. Something so futile as kidnapping a human. You know, this because as far as he knows, it's just all a facade anyways. And, you know, to him, humans, I mean, his perception of humans is quite a distinct one, isn't it? So to him, it doesn't really even add up, does it? right? So there's that disconnect at that point. Now, of course, I think it's important that Olivier brings this up. That's not by chance. It's not out of resentment towards Roy Mustang either. Surely this is a part of the plan as well, isn't it? Her bringing this up, her being the one who is essentially intelligent enough out of the group to bring this up, surely that plays a part as well, because you see that the others are kind of clueless at that point, right? All of them are expendable. I said this a long time ago, around the time Raven gets sliced and diced, much like how Gluttony gets sliced and diced. And I'll get to Gluttony in a bit. Let it be known. I took no pleasure in seeing my boy get sliced and diced, and then dying and chomped. Oh my goodness. I mean, yes, the irony is quite striking, isn't it? In terms of his actual death. But listen, surely everyone must have felt some pity for Gluttony. I mean, of course, my opinion is locked in for some time now that I do feel for Gluttony. I'll come back to Gluttony. Let me kind of finish my point on the whole kidnapping. But, the disconnect I speak of, that, this notion of kidnapping this person, this human, this loved one, is futile, essentially. It might be reflected in how they react to this, right? Because to them, surely, Mrs. Bradley is expendable. Of course, it all comes down from the top as well, father, because he also believes firmly that this person is expendable. It's not going to do anything to us, right? But of course, it's a little bit different for Wrath, for King Bradley. It'll be really interesting to see how he reacts to this once he gets this news as well. And how this might be used to potentially draw him out at some point. I mean, listen, man, that might really show us another level of Wrath, right? Though, of course, there's also this angle of maybe, ultimately he is going to have to make a choice. Maybe he already kind of has that situation played out in his mind. If ever it came down to that choice, he simply has to kind of let go of his love, something along those lines. Maybe, I think Wrath might be able to make a choice like that potentially, because I just don't see this being his downfall. Ultimately, that he might, be so angry about this that he's going to, just run into a trap of some sort, a trap that he might not be able to fight himself out of, right? Or fight out of. But then, this whole nature of her being expendable, being potentially reflected in their actions or their reactions to this situation, that in itself can also be really quite intriguing, right? If she finds out about this, that just at a snap of a finger, she could be just tossed aside if needed. So it'd be interesting. I think there's a lot of fantastic setup here. But let's take it back a bit before the cliffhanger, Hohenheim. My calls for Hohenheim earlier in the episode are not based on any potential physical altercation that him and Pride might engage in. No. I want to see how Hohenheim approaches this situation, right? It's a bit of a reunion. He just recently met Pride inside of those tunnels as he was kind of testing out a few things. And of course, he was able to gather and learn a few important details about Pride. But yeah, it's all set up nicely. Hohenheim and Pride. This feels like the real deal. Listen, it's not to diminish any of the things that happen in this episode. I mean, it's such a fantastic episode. So engaging, right? The fight sequences are so engaging. I've said this time and time again. This anime just knows how to do fight sequences, engaging fight sequences. Even for someone like me, as many of you know by now, I'm not the biggest fan of shonen fight scenes, especially if an entire anime or an entire show is based around that concept. Now listen, I'm not saying I'm not a fan of fight sequences at all, because I have a history of really enjoying some fight sequences. But let's go further back and kind of focus on Pride, the arrogant Pride absorbing one of its siblings, Gluttony. Yeah, you see that there is a bit of a shift physically, right? In Pride's physical look, or at least Salim in the container. You see the eyes are purple now. That appears to be the only physical shift as of this point. Maybe I'll notice something else in the follow-up episode, in the next episode. You see that he also has that insatiable hunger, he's kind of taken that on as well. Though, of course, he's also taken on something else that's really quite useful. The ability to track through scent. That strong sense of scent that Gluttony had, right? That was really quite useful. But now Pride has kind of, leveled up. Certainly, for sure, it's leveled up. And I love how, it's a group effort going up against Pride. Yes, there's a few one-on-one moments, but then, another one steps in and then a few of them step in. Of course, Ed is going toe-to-toe because he is utilizing the carbon fiber element of his northern automail. Though, of course, you also see that he has transmuted that arm, right? It had a really distinct look to it. It was much darker, right? It was like coated. So, I love how things that are set up episodes ago, a long time ago, the first time he comes across Greed, the original Greed, at least for us, the audience, that whole concept of him figuring out Greed's abilities and the carbon fiber element of it all. Now, all this time later, he's on the same side as Greed, and now he's also utilizing the same type of idea, same concept, right? The ultimate shield or armor, ultimate shield, yeah. So once again, you see the setup and the payoff, right? This is happening all over the place at this point, and I'm sure I'll see more of that, right? And that's one of the things Arakawa has really excelled at, right? Really utilizing the episode count and the epic nature, the grand nature of this story, right? The extensive nature of this story. There's a strong sense of all of these experiences meaning something in the grand scheme of things, right? That it's not superfluous. Sure, maybe now and then there might be a few moments in standalone episodes, perhaps, but ultimately I do think a lot of the things that have played out in this anime, this story, and a lot of the things characters like Ed and Al, and of course some of the supporting cast have experienced mean something. And now a lot of those things are being applied here in the last stages of this anime and story, right? The promised day. That's crazy, man. I'm 2 episodes from episode 50. That just feels crazy to me. But the crazier thing is that there's anime on my list, long anime on my list that is so much longer than this even. Double the size of this. Hunter x Hunter comes to mind. That's quite the long one. I believe Monster also goes into the 70s, doesn't it? But yeah, as I mentioned, this is the enemy. They know now. They see now the things Pride is capable of, the lows it's capable of, the low blows, and the dirty tactics Pride is capable of. Though, of course, Greed already kind of told Ed all about this. The approach Pride is able to take. The dirty approach it is more than open to taking. But yeah, listen, man. To me, that was incredibly sad. It really was, to see Gluttony go out like that. And the fact that it's yelling out, it's screaming out for lust in that moment. Not for Oto-san, father, but for lust, who was ultimately Big Sis. And perhaps even a guardian figure. It almost even felt like a mother-son relationship, didn't it? This is someone he respected so much and cared for so much. I'll never forget Gluttony's reaction to finding out that Lust has died, and this Mustang fellow is the one behind it. The anger, remember? Gluttony has always been this sin that felt innocent to me, or innocent in the sense that it's just in his nature to be like this. Because to me, it was always clear that Gluttony does not have the mental faculties to understand the moral implications of its actions or his actions, right? He does those things because those things are in his nature, and also he does those things because he's being told to do those things as well, right? Because this is his family, this is his father. Lust is this Big Sis, mother figure, guardian figure. So if they're telling him to do this, it must be the right thing, right? He's not even thinking on that level, You get my point, right? So to me, it was incredibly sad to see him get sliced and diced. I mean, of course, it's really impressive. Lan Fan out there, and then of course, Ling out there as well. Though at the end there, it looks like Greed took over again. As, of course, Gluttony is being consumed and his Philosopher's Stone is being taken. You see, of course, the ultimate shield aspect is coming in. That's not Ling, right? Ling doesn't know how to do that. And you see the eyes do go a little bit purple, tiny little pupils, purple pupils. And it makes sense, right? You see how angry Greed is, or Ling Greed, or Greeling is at that point, to see, Pride doing this to one of their own. So yeah, that'll be interesting. the aftermath of this. But isn't it interesting to see the small groups that do end up forming or did end up forming? You know, you've got lust and gluttony, right? That connection, that relationship, that bond. But then you also have lust, gluttony, and envy together. Those three also seem to have this connection as a trio, didn't they? This dynamic as a trio. Then you have pride and wrath, right? You go all the way back to Pride's first appearance, right? One of the best scenes of the entire anime, for me at least. That disembodied voice that I heard. You know, there it was clear that there is this understanding, this really specific dynamic. Perhaps it comes from the fact that they do spend years and years, decades together. Of course, him as Selim Bradley and Wrath as King Bradley, right? So there was that idea or that notion of, okay, you know, I'm giving you a heads up here. You know, I'm not going to tell father about this line of thinking of yours, you know. Maybe it's time for the next generation. I think it was something along those lines, right? He was saying things that are a little bit concerning from Pride's perspective, right? And Pride kind of gives him, you know, all right, bro, listen, I'm not gonna go to father about this, but you need to check yourself, right? You need to reel it back in, my dude. So that's interesting, isn't it? And you have Greed, who just didn't want any of this, right? He wanted his own thing, his own family, because he just could not connect with any of them, right? That's just not his thing. So yeah, man, listen, I've said it time and time again, the Sins are some of the best characters of this anime as well. And even though Pride is really quite hateable, Pride is still fascinating, right? Really quite intriguing as well. And the whole concept of, you know, them fighting Pride in that form, right? Yes, there's the shadow hands and the shadow element of it, but, you know, Selim Bradley, the container, the conduit, is in the middle of it all. Right? The juxtaposition there is just crazy, isn't it? That this whole time there's this little child, and you know, like I mentioned, out of context, it's hilarious, right? It's crazy. As you see, the people that show up, right? To them, it looks insane. This lion man is mauling this young child, right? So yeah, you know, at the end of the day, it does make sense, doesn't it, that they do end up choosing this container of a young child to house Pride in, right? And you see through Mustang's foster mother, Chris Mustang, right? Madame Christmas. Yeah. That, yeah, you know, it's been the case for a long time now, decades, going back 20, 50 years. So you see how Mustang is the man he is today, right? This lady, Chris Mustang, she's quite impressive herself. I mean, she excels at this type of thing. She's got connections, all kinds of connections. And then, of course, the title of the episode comes into play, The Oath in the Tunnel and all that, right? Essentially, she tells Mustang to not die, and then he passes that on to his men as well, his group as well, doesn't he? Because there's a lot riding on this, you know? But, you know, even though it was really wholesome and lovely to see, okay, you know, he was an orphan and, you know, this foster mother, this person really took him in. And, you know, in this context, it's totally different, isn't it? Because those specific ladies at that place, right, at that establishment, are perhaps like sisters to Mustang. You know, they kind of grew up together. They know Mustang because of Chris Mustang. So there's a really lovely dynamic going on there, for sure, I think. But also, you know, the nature of this story and the things that have happened, things like Ishwal, you know, I could not help but think about the role he played in creating so many orphans in Ishwal, right? And I feel like that's by design, you know, the duality and the nature of this. To me, I'm not really able to just kind of let go of that, because as the audience member, that's something that's always lingering in my mind. But of course, everything he is doing now and everything he stands for now is to make sure something like that could never happen again. That people, that soldiers could never be put in a position like that ever again. Like he told his people, his group, you know, this is just the beginning of it, because there's another task at hand, you know, him as Führer, rebuilding the country. And then of course, you know, there's the whole having to pay the price for their actions in Ishwal. But let's kind of go back to the forest, right? Lan Fan comes back in looking really quite impressive, though it kind of catches up to her, doesn't it? And I love that Ed is showing concern, right? Because he's been there. He knows this inside and out, right? You know, didn't I mention earlier that everything feels like this incredible setup? And you go all the way back to episode 2, right? Granny telling him that it's going to be rough, But somehow he still managed in a year, right? He managed in a year, even though he was given something like a timeline of 3 to 4 years by Granny. She's back out here in 6 months' time. So he knows how insane this is. So of course, she's out there, really damn impressive. But then it catches up to her a bit, doesn't it? So let's see how that plays out. And it's realistic as well, isn't it? And then of course, in terms of going up against Pride, Ed has now tested out the flashbang, the flash bomb, right? And it's effective. So, you know, it's something that they do have in their arsenal now. Depending on how long this fight plays out, if it even kind of concludes here, because I can see it kind of cutting off at some point and then they come back to it another time, you know, another encounter with Pride, perhaps the final encounter. But yeah, you know, it's been tested now. It's been field tested, right? And I remember I did mention something like this. Again, you know, it's not the most amazing, you know, prediction or call, but the concept of eliminating shadows altogether, even if it is for a moment in time, is really quite effective, isn't it? And then, of course, you know, I really enjoyed some of the comedic relief in this episode as well, coming through Ed and Chimeras, one of the Chimeras at least, Darius, right? Listen, you know, I keep saying it, but the Chimera and Ed together is so wholesome. It's so fun, right? They feel like they're brothers at this point, right? Brothers in arms, essentially. And you know, that that moment Fu comes up. I love how, you know, he's got his mask on, but they still can't see him, right? But then I love how he takes it off in this, you know, big reveal moment, but they still can't see him because it's too dark. But then, you know, ultimately he reveals his name and they're like, Fu, you're back in it. And it was good to get the name because that was the one name I kept kind of forgetting for some reason. It's so simple, but it was just kind of escaping me. So yeah, it's all happening here, folks. It's all happening. Everyone's kind of coming back in, joining the final fight. And I'm sure it's going to continue. You know, like I mentioned, I'm sure I'll see many familiar faces. But yeah, I think that's about it for this one, folks. Ultimately, really sad to see Gluttony go in that manner. You know, he died alone, afraid, frustrated, confused, in quite a brutal fashion as well. So yeah, you know, I'm gonna make sure to have a big old meal for the homie Gluttony. You know, so rest easy, big man, rest easy. But yeah, I think that's about it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. It's getting there now, right? It's getting there. So, you know, maybe take this chance to finally dip into the comments if you've just been on the sidelines. These are some crucial episodes coming up now, right? So yeah, you know, I'd be more than happy to hear from many more than usual, maybe some first timers coming in. Also, if you are interested in early access to the next few episodes right now, 3 episodes at this point, or perhaps full length, timer-based full length, of course, consider checking out the Patreon page, potentially supporting the channel. And then if you are interested, check out the links in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks. Thank you for your time, because time is precious. And then I do hope to see you again soon for episode 49. Until then, take it easy.